I'm Bruce Ervin. I was the first Disciples Peace Fellowship Peace Intern. In the winter of 1974-75, the horrible war in Vietnam was finally drawing to a close, and that war had been the focus of so much of the activism of DPF. Some DHM staff and some DPF staff began to ask themselves, how are we going to raise up the next generation of peace activists? And as they talked, the idea emerged that we should hire a college student who would go around to CYF conferences, that is to say senior high conferences, church camps in the summer, and lead workshops on justice and peace issues. And so somehow my name came up in the conversation, and I was invited to come to Indianapolis for an interview. And the interview, the hiring, and my training all took place in about a 2-hour span, just that one morning. And then I was off to 6 different camps across the Midwest during that summer, traveling from camp to camp by Greyhound bus. And it was a summer that I will never forget. In fact, 3 takeaways from that summer occur to me. The first one being that I sure hope that the young people with whom I met that summer got half as much out of the summer as I did, because what I got out of the summer was a call. That summer, I heard much of my call to ministry, and so coming out of that summer, I received a sense of my life's work, and not to mention memories that I will hold dear to my heart for the rest of my life. The second takeaway had to do with a simulation game that we played. The trick was that one team had to make itself vulnerable. One team had to take a risk, and if then another team engaged with them in that risk-taking, they would see that together they could amass the maximum number of points. And so in the discussion afterwards, I tried to make the connection between making yourself vulnerable in that game and how we might be able to bring an end to the horrible nuclear arms race that was occurring then between the United States and the Soviet Union. I suggested that if one of those superpowers would unilaterally reduce its armaments, even a little bit, that act of vulnerability might create enough trust that then negotiations could happen. One of the participants in the workshop said, "Oh, that's so impractical, that would never happen." 10 years later, the leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, unilaterally froze the number of intermediate range missiles that the Soviet Union was deploying in Europe. The United States initially was continuing to deploy new missiles, and so the Soviet Union took that unilateral act, making itself vulnerable. And President Reagan recognized that this was an opportunity to negotiate. They sat down at the table, and 2 years later, they signed the Intermediate Nuclear Arms Treaty, almost exactly following the kind of scenario that I had suggested to those campers 10 years earlier, which tells us, and here's the takeaway, that one era's impractical dream can become another era's very practical international policy. The third takeaway occurred at a camp in Ohio. They had a song that they loved to sing called Rainbow. The chorus went, "We're a rainbow made of children, we're an army singing a song, there's no weapon can destroy us, rainbow love is much too strong." For hundreds of years now, we've been fighting and killing. For hundreds of years, we've been going to war. Now we're rainbows, and we tell you, we're not marching anymore. Here's the takeaway. One day, as the co-president of the conference, the senior CYF member who was the co-president, as he was introducing the song, he'd been in my workshop that day, and he said, "I learned something today." He said, "I learned that love is the most powerful force in the universe." Well, perhaps that will be the next example of an impractical dream, what might seem to some people to be an impractical dream, that love can be that strong, becoming another era's very practical reality. because indeed love is the strongest force, the strongest power in the universe, a love that is deeply embedded in the scriptures, revealed to us through the scriptures. I will take that memory with me for the rest of my life. Hope that the Summer Peace Intern program of the Disciples Peace Fellowship will continue for as long as it needs to continue. Don't forget to include the Kirby Page Fund in your estate plans. That fund will continue to generate revenue, which will help to pay the salaries of our Peace Interns for many summers to come. Thank you for your commitment to keeping alive the vision for peace and justice.